All right, welcome everybody. This is Diana Southall, host of the Small Business Catalyst series, and today my guest is Ira Wolfe. Hi, Ira.
Hey, good morning, Diana.
How are you?
Good to talk to you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So everybody, I met Ira, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, and as you will see in a moment and hear, he's the president of Success Performance Solutions, but I like to think of him as somewhat of a futurist. He really has, he's always looking at how the world is changing, and specifically how employers can bring great team members onto their staff. So he's going to tell us a little bit about what he's came up with this. I don't know that you came up with the term Googleization, but he's going to tell us about recruiting in this new age and how a small and mid-sized employer can really change their whole methods and their whole process to get better people. So why don't you take it away, Ira?
Well, thanks very much, Diana. And yeah, Googleization, I like to say I came up with it. I thought I did, and then I searched for it and found out somebody else had talked about it, like so many other things. But it's caught on, and it's been good. It was actually part of my book from, hard to believe, almost 9 years ago, Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization, which was about the 4 generations in the workplace and how technology was going to change our lives. And really, it's the convergence of what I said was the wired, the tired, and technology. But obviously, things have changed a lot in effect. It's one of the myths that we wanted to bust, and there's 3 myths that I tend to talk about that get people in trouble when we talk about recruiting or talent management in general, people management, I guess. One of them is how fast things are changing. I wrote Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization in 2009. It was published in 2009 as well. And I decided to, a lot of things happened. We now have another generation. Millennials aren't the youngest generation in the workplace anymore. Generation Z is, but there's still a lot of people, pretty much bashing or having problems with recruiting and retaining and managing millennials.
But
what I realized was, what I realized is I really wanted to address the Googleization part more, and I discovered that even though the book's only 8 years old, the iPad and tablets, the iPad wasn't even invented yet. It wasn't on the market. That didn't come until 2010, so I realized how fast things were changing, but how out of date that was. The first myth is that the future, we're talking about the future, what things are going to be like in a few years, and the reality is the future is already here. When you start thinking about artificial intelligence and Alexa and Siri and how the iPad's on multiple variations and how the cloud's advanced and storage, just everything. Technology
transformed, absolutely.
It's on a pretty rapid change hook, to the point where McKinsey just a few years ago quoted that change is happening 10 times faster and 300 times the scale than it did just a century ago, which has an impact about 3,000 times. So part of it is that when people say, wow, things are so different now, and they are.
They are. From last year.
They are different. And what's really, really crazy about this is that, and many of the audience isn't going to be familiar with this term, but there's something called a quantum computer. And for as much change as that we've experienced to date, and much of it's been on Moore's Law for people who might not be familiar with Moore's Law, it was that every 18 months a computer speed doubles and the cost is cut in half. And we've lived on that for 40 years almost. And that's been why, we have so many, there's a new iPhone and a new tablet, a new version, new computer comes out every 12 to 18 months, is because of that. Well, with the quantum computing, the speed of processing, and I'm not exaggerating here, this is a legit comment. It sounds like I'll be exaggerating. The quantum computer processes information at 100 million times faster than the fastest computer in the world today.
Whoa.
And so if we think things are changing fast now, just wait, which leads me to another, one of the other myths is that Jobs are going to keep changing. Definition of work is going to keep changing. The government, despite the fact that they're talking about creating jobs and saving jobs, really doesn't have control over it this time because technology is just being so incredibly disruptive. Now, we will have jobs. It's debatable whether we're going to have more or less of them, whether disruptive technology is going to create more jobs. But it's definitely going to make it more difficult to hire because the skills that are going to be required to do these jobs is going to be so much different. So as much as we have a skilled labor problem now, it's only going to be exacerbated because almost every job is going to require technical skills and more brains, less brawn.
Problem solving, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
I quote all the time that you talked about how there's a 30 million person gap in the job market just in a few years because really, right, because the millennials don't necessarily have the skills that we need for the jobs that are coming.
Well, it's not only the millennials. I mean, the millennials don't have some of the skills, but the baby boomers don't have them either, and neither does Gen X. I mean, so that which is a good segue, which leads me into the third myth. So the first myth is, that the future's here now. It's not just coming. The other is, just about jobs in general. But the third myth is about millennials. And millennials aren't aliens. They weren't dropped from another planet. And most people, when they talk about millennials, even yesterday, I was giving a bunch of presentations to contractors. And one of the gentlemen in my audience, you haven't met my 16-year-old daughter. And I said, yeah, but she's not a millennial. She's a Generation Z, because millennials were born 1980 to 1996. Now, there's no magic cutoff, but that would make the oldest millennial 37 years old, and the youngest millennial 21 or 22 years old. So most millennials are out of school, and there's or out of college or in the workforce. There's a big difference between the millennials who are 22 and 23 and the millennials who are 37, just as is with baby boomers. The millennials or the baby boomers who were, born in the late 40s and early 50s are very much different than the ones who were born in the early 60s. They didn't have the same experiences. So a lot of the millennials, more than half of the millennials, in fact, I think it's like 60-some% now, are over 30 years old. Many of them are highly productive, workers. They're the managers. They're all the entrepreneurs. They're running startups. They're not the young people that everybody assumes. Everybody assumes that anybody under 30 or anybody under even 25 are all millennials, and that's just not the case. So 3 rules. One is the future's here now. The second is that the government's not going to save jobs or create jobs. It's going to be business, and those jobs are going to require much more advanced skills than we've ever seen before. And the third is the millennials are not aliens. Most of them, really understand which generation that you're talking about, and also that employers need to figure out how to work with millennials, whether they like it or not, whether they have different attitudes and beliefs, because they will, by 2025, they're going to make up 75% of the workforce. They currently make up over 1/3, 35% of the workforce today is millennials. So if you are having trouble with millennials for good reasons or bad reasons, they're not all good, they're not all bad. Some have bad attitudes, but so do many. I know a lot of baby boomers that don't have a very good attitude, and a lot of Gen X that don't have a very good attitude. You need to figure out how to find the ones who have the attitudes and the behaviors and the skills that you want, and that is going to be your resource. The only other choice after that is to automate everything and use robots, which is becoming realistic. But
for certain jobs,
those tends to be the rules. You mentioned in the intro, so how do companies compete? How do people deal with all these things that are going on? And that we can
you scared us.
Part of that is I came up with an acronym. The acronym is REACH. And it stands for, the first one happens to be reach, that you have to reach the people. They have to know if you're recruiting in the age of Googlization, first thing is people have to know that you have a job opening.
Get the word out.
Right. And even if somebody just knocks on your door and says, hey, do you have a job opening, there's got to be ways that they know about your company. So you have to be able to reach them. The E in reach stands for engage. We'll talk about that in a minute. And the A stands for apply. So you need to reach them, they have to be engaged, that they're interested, and then there's got to be easy way for them to apply. And that sounds all easy, but people tend to can't seem to get out of their own way, or they trip over their own feet faster than ever before. The C stands for converse, which is having a conversation. You just can't ignore them. And building your own pool. And we won't spend a whole lot of time on that. I know we only have like 25 minutes today or so, but that's that's an important part. And happy to talk to you again. And we're going to provide everybody a white paper that'll talk about that.
Right. That's going to go over this. So that'll be great.
Yeah,
yep.
And then H is hire, and hiring doesn't stop when you extend somebody a job offer. There's got to be some onboarding. You got to train them. You got to mentor them.
Absolutely.
You've got to welcome them into your group. It's not like, well, show up Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we'll tell you what to do.
There's a desk. Go to it.
Yeah. So let's go back, and I guess we can talk a little bit about more reach. One of the things, and this came from JobVite, and I know you're familiar with that, and what I liked about it is it looked at 50 million people who's job seekers and 10 million applications. So we're not talking some, small study of 50 here. People. Right. Yeah.
Real life. I just need one good person, Ira. Bring me one good person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, So how do we get one good person? What does it take to get one good person? Well, to get one good person, you're going to obviously extend the job offer to one person. The problem is that, and the numbers vary on this a little bit, between 10 and 20% of all the people that you will extend the job offer to don't decline it. It could be that they got counter-offered. They talked to their spouse. They decided to move. They had to move or relocate, and their kids, they didn't want to pull the kids out of school if they have kids. It could have been travel. There's a host of reasons why people decline jobs, but it's pretty common with 10 to 20% of all people that you extend that job offer to end up backing out. So you have to have some backups. In order to get beyond that backup, you really have to have 6 interviews. And I don't mean just 6 interviews with anybody. In order to get that one qualified application or qualified employee, you really need to have 6 good interviews. I mean, people that you would
consider. Interview, post-assessment is what I'd say, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these people have been vetted. Maybe during the interview you recognize that they wouldn't be a good fit, but these people have what it takes. And I guess if the first 5 would be rejected, maybe even the 6th one would be an okay fit for you. Maybe you'd give them a shot. But you need 6 quality interviews, which is a problem. I don't think people have a problem getting 6 people interviewed, but I think they have them say, boy, this was a tough choice. I'm not sure which one to pick among these 6, which is another reason.
Qualified candidates at this point,
not
just somebody you had an hour with. Yep.
6 people that really met your met and exceeded your minimum requirements. Okay. Yep. So how do you get those? Well, you need 48 applications from, again, relatively qualified people. Now, the complaint is, we tried Indeed, we tried ZipRecruiter, we went on the Facebook, and again, for a small company the other day, he only had 16 applications. He said he had 3,000 people, which goes to our next step here, but he had 3,000 people view his ad, and he had all these people applying that had no experience, and it was for a skilled labor job. I mean, they had to know something about the industry. So again, these are 48 applications that you felt were at least worth taking a second look at. Okay, they caught your eye. Now, here's the part that most people fall apart on, because people can get 48 applications relatively easy. They can make 6 interviews, and they can extend the job offer. It may not be their ideal person, but they're willing to do it.
I hear people like, I got 15 applications, right? Isn't that enough? Why can't I find somebody?
Yeah.
But go ahead.
And it could be. I mean, maybe maybe there is that needle in the haystack that you found, and the smaller the haystack, the easier it is to find the needle. So that's not having 15 people, maybe you luck out at one time and you have 1, but that's not the rule of thumb. The rule of thumb is that in order to find that one person, to have that 6 interviews, get 48 good applications, you have to have 432 people see your ad. That's the top of the funnel. And the question is, do people really even know how many people saw their ad?
Right.
The job posting. It's not necessarily an ad, but job posting.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. If enough people aren't seeing it, then, investing in other, trying, well, Indeed didn't work last time. Let's try Craigslist. Let's try Facebook. Let's try, we're going to go to community college now. We're going to try something else. You need to use all of those. You really need to widen the funnel, use multiple sources in the beginning to find out which source is the best, but also just to create that volume, because every millennial is not on Facebook. Every millennial is not using Craigslist. Every millennial is not using Indeed. Some do, some don't. So in order to get some of those people from each of those sources, you really have to have a wide funnel, and that's where a lot of the things like applicant tracking systems or applicant processing systems, the ability to automate some of that screening, is I can already hear the small business owner and the HR person, they may or may not have, or you're they're outsourcing it to someone like yourself. The challenge is that it becomes overwhelming, and without some type of automation, is how do you go through 400 people seeing your ad, and how do you go through 48 applications? Because the next part of this is how do you respond to them quickly? I mean, if you had 48 applications, there's got to be a way to engage them, which is part 2, quickly. Because if you don't respond quickly enough, then they disappear.
You lose them, right? It's a tight market, and everybody's scrambling. So the message I'm hearing is cast a wide net. You need a funnel. I'm also hearing tracking, right, to know, and I'm a big proponent of that, to make your life easier as well as to know what's working.
Use technology. I mean, we're living, and we didn't address this one here, but when I do the presentation, I show a picture of a typewriter. And while everyone is, especially in the recruiting and the HR world, while the world has gone mobile, recruiting and HR still tends to use a typewriter to send an email. Not literally, but there's a little bit of a disconnect, because if you think about how we hire people for companies that are not using technology, they're still using the same devices, the same types of interviews, the same process that they used in 1970, 1960, maybe even maybe
whatever.
1980.
Go back.
Yeah,
Send me a resume. I look at the resumes. I bring you in for an interview.
Yeah, we post a job. We get a bunch of people. When we get around to it, we call them, we screen them. The whole process has changed, and you can blame Amazon and you can blame Google for that instant gratification. But if I can purchase, if I'm interested in purchasing something, I'm interested in buying something, I can go to a site. Within a few seconds, there's usually a chat button that pops up. Somebody is offering to help me. I can order it, I can receive it, I can do it from my smartphone, I can do it from my desk, except apply for a job.
Absolutely. Any of that. All right, so applying, we need more applications. I'm always preaching that. So then what? So people who applied, we make it easy to apply, so now what do we need to do? We need to engage them as your E.
One other part, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I would tell everyone to one is apply to a job that you post. It's got to be mobile ready, or mobile optimized, or mobile ready is kind of a next stage down. But because, especially if we're targeting millennials, an older baby boomer, and it's almost anybody, but 90% of millennials, the only way that they're even going to see your job posting is on a smart device. And that smart device has got to be mobile ready. And a lot of ads are just not mobile ready, or a lot of job postings that people can't find the apply button because it's hidden somewhere. So,
or it's your company website and it's an old form and they can't do it on their phone. It gets locked up.
Well, a lot of companies have to that point, that's true, but a lot of companies have said, oh yeah, we just redid our website, and it's a very nice website. And again, yesterday in this seminar that I gave, a presentation at a conference I gave, I said, how many people have are their sites mobile? And you saw they pulled up to smartphones and they looked at it. And I said, okay, now pull up your career page. Well, the career page wasn't mobile ready.
Right. Right.
Or it showed the posting, and then when they went to apply, it wasn't mobile ready, or it was submit a resume, hr@abccompany.com.
Yep, send us a resume, right?
Yeah. And you lose people. So kind of, I know we're going to get short on time here in a minute, but here's something important. You may be getting enough views, and you may be getting enough people interested, and then you hit apply. There's something called applicant abandonment or candidate abandonment. A lot of people have long applications. Some of them have to because they're federal contractors. But you don't have to ask someone all those questions up front. Keep it simple. Here's my, the question I throw out. What do you absolutely need to know to at least get someone engaged to start the application? Well, you need an ID, which could be their first name, but you need a way to contact them, so you don't even really need a name. What you need is an email address or a phone number that you can reach out to them. But just being able to address them, first name, if you want the last name, that's fine. You need an ID. So that's 2 fields.
Yep.
You need to know, probably, if this is part of your credentialing, you need to know what's the minimum number of years experience that they have.
Right.
So if you say we want people that have 2 or more or 5 or more, you ask that question. As simple as that. Do you have a minimum of 5 years experience or 2 years of experience? Don't overdo it because you'll eliminate people that may be qualified. If there is an education requirement, what's the highest level of education that they completed? So that would be 4 questions. If you want to ask, do they have a valid driver's license? Do they have a certification that you need? What else is required? So that might be 5 and 6. That's it. And people say, well, I can't hire somebody on that. You're not hiring them. You're starting the conversation. That's it.
Capturing a lead, like a suspect in sales.
Yeah, exactly. So here's why this is important. If you ask up to 10 questions, 17% will abandon it. There's always going to be people that start and say, oh, I'm not going to take my time. And maybe that's partly because the website's not conducive, or, that's the type of person who says, oh, I thought I would just be able to send my, 1 click and I can apply and get a job. So there's still some criteria. The problem is above 10 questions or 5 minutes, and there's 2 parameters here. 10 questions or 5 minutes. If it takes longer than that, you're going to lose almost 1 out of every 2 people are going to abandon your process. So you may be getting 432 people who see your job posting, but if you're only getting 10 people to apply, and we've had this, we had a company that 87% of the people who saw their ad and who started the application dropped out.
Wow.
And they dropped out because the broadband that they have there is just slow. And the way it was set up is that they started the application and then it switched screens. And then the second screen took forever to load, and people just abandoned the process. So we didn't change the application. We put it all on, we made sure that it showed up on 1 page. So once that screen came up, all they had to do was fill out the form and then click apply. And so there's a lot of reasons that would happen. Mostly it happens because the application's not online, it's not mobile friendly, there's a request to send a resume, there's a whole host of reasons.
Right. Yeah.
So kind of the 3 major corrections that are all fairly easy to fix is, one is you need to have a wider reach. You need to have a way to engage, and by having the shorter application, that's an immediate way to engage. And then the third is having that shorter application. At that point, you can automate the process and say, hey, thanks very much for applying. We're interested. Please click here so we can continue the process with you. And that's where you can have somebody submit an application, call in, schedule an interview. If you have a longer online application. Those tend to be the 3 major things to that companies can do fairly quickly and improve it. And part of it's metrics. I mean, part of it's how many views. If you're not getting enough views, then you need to look at a different source. There's something else wrong. But there's many other steps. There's things like, every application, every job posting is a web page, and web page is just like every other web page on your site. If it's not search engine optimized, if you don't have the right title, I guess that's one other quick tip I'd give. If your organization has, let's say for HR, we're both in the HR world, and a lot of people said, oh, it's a people management, it's a people director.
I'm chief people officer, right?
Yeah. The majority of people aren't going to type that in. They're going to type in HR manager, HR director, human resources. If you're not using the words that people are typing in, then you're not going to get found that easily. Now, that doesn't mean you have to change the title internally.
Right.
But every page needs to be optimized. So there's so many reasons that it could happen, but at least you know where your fall off is. Are you just not getting enough views, or are they dropping out at the application stage? And that allows you to change your strategy, do a quick fix. And what I found is most companies are actually doing an okay job with job postings. They've figured that part out. They're losing them in this application stage.
Sure. It's either too much or it's too little. So your suggestion is make the application, I'm putting air quotes, easy, but then put some more screening follow-up factors. So let's gather as many applications or resumes as we can, then put some more quick follow-up steps. So we could send them 5 questions, and then if we like those, we could send them the next 5. We could give them something.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could do a phone screen. Okay.
Right, because I get an objection from a lot of people legitimately is that, well, if somebody's not willing to take 15 minutes or 10 minutes to fill out our application, or some of them or if you're a federal contractor, it could be a 30-minute application. Yeah, you do need background checks. You need to know where they worked before, what their history was, where they went to school. You need to know if they're qualified, but not to start a conversation.
Yeah.
You need them because also 80% of I mean, there's so many other things we can talk about here. 80% of all the people who are hired already have jobs.
Absolutely.
So if I'm thinking about changing, but I'm not sure, and I hear that you have a job opening, I'm not going to send you my life history. I'm not going to spend 30 minutes filling out an application just because I'm somewhat curious, which also means why don't you have a chat button that there's a way to contact you about getting more information about the job, or if I have a particular question. But even with that, even chat buttons, what's your name, what's your phone number, or an email address. That's all you need to start a conversation.
So it's speed dating. We're not going in for a marriage proposal. And I think small businesses tend to think they're going to run an ad and then start first interviewing. And I think what we're talking about here is some more steps to make sure that we do some dating to get to the point where we find out, hey, this might be somebody I want to, go on more dates with.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And the other part of that is that, we're going to get, last time we tried that, we had 1,000 people apply. Yeah, but that's easy to get it down to 20. But you need some automation. You can't use a typewriter to, you got to get rid of the typewriter in today's world type thing. So there's no more mail rooms. You don't have a mailroom to sort it.
No more mailroom. Yeah, I remember the stacks of resumes. I used to go through them, right? Big folder of paper. Reach, engage, get them excited about the opportunity. And with a back-and-forth conversation, there's more opportunity to do that than them just putting in an application. And then apply, right? How we're going to have them apply.
Right, yeah, and then quickly is, after that, you want to continue the conversation, even if they're not, they may know they have friends. You can have a newsletter. You can give them tips. Keep in touch with people. There's one interesting company that now actually sends a coupon for applying. And, if you're in the hospitality, maybe it's a free dessert, type of thing. Maybe it's a coupon for a Dunkin' Donuts coffee, whatever it might be. Is they send a thank you, and they keep in touch with the group, for doing that. And so, you can be as creative as you want, but keep them in tow, because you just never know when you're going to have another opening or who they know that might work for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially with professionals. or people in the same industry like retail, hospitality, they move around a lot. So
they sure do.
It's good to nurture, keep fishing in this pond. All right, awesome tips. And so we're gonna be able to, if everybody just looks on the side of the screen, we're gonna pop up a download button. You can get Ira's white paper, which is recruiting in the age of Googlization, so you can read more of the steps, which is going to be a chapter in your upcoming book. So
that's correct. Yeah, when the shift, say this slowly.
Say it properly.
It's your plan. Yeah, we're going to talk about change. We're going to talk about recruiting, and we're going to talk. I talk a lot about people analytics, which is really the next part. If you don't have metrics and analytics, it's going to be a losing battle, but it's becoming much easier to do that.
And the bigger companies are doing it, so if you want to be able to find candidates and woo them to your company, you're absolutely going to have to. So actually, I'm going to be doing this summer, I'm probably going to be doing a webinar on that, about how to set up, a more automated applicant tracking type program. Excellent. So, okay, a couple things. So you can get the white paper. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat box, and we've got it set up because they can go right to Ira. So if you'd like to respond to you directly, if that's all right, Ira.
Contact me. My email address is iwolfe, IWOLFE, at super-solutions.com. And you can reach me at 800-803-4303. And my website, successperformancesolutions.com.
Yep, and all that will be on your white paper too, right? So all your contact.
Oh, it's all there. Yeah, or just put in Ira Wolfe, WOLFE, and I'll pop up somewhere.
He does. He pops up everywhere. Well, you can understand why. All right, this has been really great. Thank you for speaking with me today, Ira. And if people want to take the next step, they can contact you or I and figure out how to put some of this in place at your company.
Thanks very much. Have a great day. Great to talk to you.
Okay, bye.